Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael J. Long. Today is July 2nd, 2012, and I believe it's 8:32. Anyways, today I think I'm going to talk about I'm going to emphasize more on the corruption that has taken place in Laredo, Texas. Because this is just one example in a lot of cities throughout this country. That being the United States of America. My friend who lives in this city made this blog through Blogger, and it basically exposes the corruption of the city of Laredo, Texas, and its local officials and the LPD and so forth. So I'm gonna go over that, and I'm gonna read it through my phone so that my viewers can have an understanding of what I'm talking about, and then I'll emphasize on what needs to be done afterwards. Okay? So if you just bear with me for a sec. Exposing political schemes left and right. This is a blog that was made by my friend, one of my friends that lives in the city. And in the introduction he puts, "This is my honest attempt to service the truth and debunk the convoluted American political spectrum. I do not adhere to the two-party systems or the propaganda which is pushed by the mainstream media political scams. Aims to inform my friends, family, and my peers to the current political awakening who unfortunately are too preoccupied with the troubles of everyday life to take notice." And then it goes on to say, and emphasizes on the corruption of Laredo. It's titled "Laredo, Grazing Ground for Corrupt Officials." That's as it's titled, as he puts it. It says, "During the weekend, Facebook users shared a photo of Laredo's finest making a pit stop at Mama's Chula's. Several different pictures calculated throughout the feed of many Laredoans. Overwhelmingly, Facebook users ridiculed the hypocrisy of the LPD. Exclusively, de Laredo was among the first few who broke the story. Essa no es candiana fo eka. Que pensiana que piensan que lamentable no que? Is this how you keep us safe? What are you thinking? Despicable, don't you think? Laredo's law enforcement has unclosed itself as the corrupt institution it is. Without a doubt, it has become more evident that the LPD is only interested in guaranteeing revenue. Tickets. The seemingly display of moral corruption by a trend and paid streets is unacceptable. Of course, this is sort of thing that is not new, recent development, or an isolated event of misfelonious. What do you think the police have to say about themselves? The LPD will be looking into this matter. The LPD takes these matters seriously and will do a thorough investigation as to the circumstances involved in this matter. The LPD non-statement pays lip service to common decency, but their actions show otherwise. Here are just a few examples of Laredo's local law enforcement breaking the law. A UISD police officer is suspended while driving under the influence. LPD officer indicted for drug and gun smuggling. Well, gee, that's nothing new. That's something you see with the federal government do every day with the FBI and the CIA and stuff. CIA, that is. The LPD officer arrested for committing fraud. Sheriff's deputy arrested for choking his wife. Former LPD officer convicted of drug conspiracy charges. 14-year-old LPD veteran officer arrested for assault. City settles case of a man who accused the LPD officer of soliciting sex during his patrol. Veteran police LPD officer arrested for assault. LPD officer arrested for assault and mischief. Another police officer arrested. Recently, it seems as if more and more police officers are finding themselves on the other side of the law. The law doesn't seem to apply to our local government officials. Sheriff's son gets caught with marijuana and doesn't go to jail. Direct attorney's office says there is not enough evidence, quote, for prosecution, stating that what was recovered from the scenes was not a usable quantity of marijuana. Meanwhile, if any of us unwished masses get arrested for pot, we don't see any clemency. A TAMU student voiced his objections to the unfairness imposed on him by the local judge. The son of a municipal court judge was arrested twice in the past few weeks. His latest arrest came with a bond of only $750, but a local college student was arrested on similar charges and given a much higher bond by the local justice of the peace. Daniel Sanchez quotes, "Just because he knows certain people doesn't mean he should have certain privileges at all." These cases evidenced that the fact that the corruption is heading to the laughable. This will continue to go on because the large portions of Laredoans, and this is his end conclusion, Laredoans laugh it off. It is not only the police departments that are corrupt. These problems has long flourished in the commissioner's court. Meanwhile, we pay the toll of living under hypocrisy and corrupt administration. And a corrupt administration, that is. And certainly, he makes a very good, valid point. And that is why in the long run, we should legalize drugs. Because when you legalize drugs, you'll be able to, be more efficient. You can go, as it is, when you have a drug prohibition, this is what happens. You have, let's say, the minors get into it, the little ones, the little kids, everybody gets poisoned, everybody gets affected, people start selling it, police start doing corrupt things. I mean, look, the drug prohibition is corrupting the Laredo Police Department and many other police departments throughout the country. I mean, local, state, county, and or federal. I mean, the federal government, nonetheless, smuggles drugs and weapons into Mexico, and 30% of the weapons that the cartels get their hands from come from the U.S. federal government smuggling drugs into Mexico. And then they get 60% or 90% of additional firearms from China and terrorist organizations and so forth. But who gives them the weapons? Who gives them the AK-47s and stuff? It's not just the U.S. federal government, but you got the Russian government doing it and so forth. But this kind of stuff seems to go on the local, state, and county level, not to mention on the federal level. It's also going on the international level, so it is a lot broader. And so Laredo, Texas is just one example of why drugs need to be legalized. Because when you can't regulate, you cannot, if you have drugs legalized, then you can regulate it. Hence, you can circumvent or reduce minors from getting their hands on it. It'll be much harder to obtain, and then it'll be regulated. It'll be controlled. It needs to be regulated. And of course, you can't regulate something that is banned. If you don't regulate anything, it means you're giving them a means to do whatever they want. And all you're doing is really going after them let's say the cop goes and says, "Oh, I'm going to smoke pot, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that." Then he gets arrested on the basis that he did that. And so, and then you got this kind of Mama Chula incident going on. So, of course, this fuels the type of problems that occurs. And this happens in Troy, New York, and to some extent doesn't happen as much as it does in other local cities. But this type of corruption can be seen in Troy, New York, Albany, New York, Schenectady, New York, Saratoga, New York, Laredo, Texas. Just about all the cities, towns, and villages in the United States, in Texas, in New York State, and so forth. And so we need to legalize drugs, and then we can regulate it, and then we won't have, and cities like Laredo won't have won't have as much of the types of problems that it has. And of course, if there are, it'll be because the corruption will be seriously reduced. And then if there are a lot of misconduct going on that can be handled, then you need to get then what can happen is you make a complaint, and then the city will be able to get their officials in line, and they need to be held accountable for what they do wrong. I'm going to make this point clear. You can't laugh things like this off. When it's serious, you got to take action on it. And I don't think, you see reports on Pro 8 News and other local news stations within Laredo, Texas, that covers this. And it's almost every freaking night or every so often that you hear cases like this. And so as you compile the amount of news reports on it, it's enough to make a record that, hey, you know what? This city actually is corrupt. Not to mention the city not to mention Webb County, through which the city of Laredo is located in, has its highest deficit yet, and drug prohibition, which could be regulated and taxed if otherwise, is causing the bankruptcy of Webb County and ultimately Laredo, Texas. And this has to do with the corrupt administration that you have going on with the current mayor of Laredo. And this could go. We don't stop it on the local level in any city, it's bound to reoccur and occur. So we got to stop it on the local, state, county, and federal levels as much as possible, and then let the other countries and empower other countries to do the same in their countries. Maybe whatever. Okay, so I'm Michael J. Long, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.